Do you ever wish your day wasn't dictated by your health? Are you tired of being tired all the time, or is pain holding you back from enjoying your time with your family? Would you like to manage your symptoms holistically, but you just don't know where to begin? I am so excited you're here. This podcast will help you understand how natural remedies work so you can relieve your symptoms and live a fuller life. My name is Penny. I'm an occupational therapist, past pharmaceutical rep, mom, and wife with a strong faith. And for 25 years, I battled through debilitating Crohn's disease. I took all the medicine and did all the surgeries that stole so much of my time with my family, but never truly healed me. I finally realized if I was going to survive this disease, I needed to open my stubborn eyes to alternative solutions. I researched how perfectly our bodies work with plants and a lifestyle that made my health less of a burden to my family and aligned so beautifully with my faith and my medical training. If you're ready to reclaim your life with holistic options that are easy to implement as a busy mom and provide relief that lasts, this is the podcast for you. Hey there, welcome back. This is episode 5 of Becoming Natural with Penny Sampler. Do essential oils actually work on our bodies, and what are essential oils? What's the first thing that you think of when you think of essential oils? Do you think of an MLM company or women who smell like patchouli? Possibly snake oil? I would say yes to all of the above. I think I can actually give you a more scientific and fact-based position on essential oils that, if you are anything like me, will knock your socks off. I mentioned in an earlier podcast that while I was on a medication that intentionally took away my immune system, I developed some annoying issues. Not viruses, but a cyst, bleeding gums, even pneumonia that left me twice hospitalized, and the last occurrence in need of a pleurocentesis. In the midst of taking this medication, I was so sick of going to the doctor that when these issues arose, I reached out to my friend who was into essential oils. I thought it was a little crazy, and I was certain that I was beyond the point of return to heal my whole body, but maybe I could give those oils a chance to help these random little things that popped up while taking this medication and keep me out of a doctor's office, which is the last place I needed to be. I really had nothing to do. Taking a step back for a moment, when I had to go on that medicine, I shed many tears over it. Twice in my illness, I remember being handed papers to sign that when I read closer, I was signing my life away to any side effect, disease, or even death. I had reached the point once before to sign those papers and burst into tears and ultimately said no. I was not okay with the potentially dying or increased suffering with a debilitated body. But ultimately, after I went to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, my choices were presented to either take the meds or remove my stomach. So, left to those two options and miserable, blinding pain that was getting worse every day, I finally agreed to the shots. My quality of life was in sharp decline, and I had to pray and hope they worked so I could be a mom to my boys. In order to even begin this medication, I had to get multiple vaccinations to, quote, protect me, as the medicine took away my immune system. This was one of my pivotal moments one day, wondering, why do I want to remove my immune system when it's there to actually protect me? Removing my immune system was the way Western medicine addressed autoimmune disease. It is overactive, and fighting my own body lets decrease its ability to function. This makes sense if you're looking just at the symptoms, but if you look at the whole body, I just kept returning to the chronic inflammation, the step before the overactive immune system. Why is my immune system overactive? Or why do I have so much inflammation? Be it a blessing or a curse, I cannot help but to constantly ask why. Why? Why? I am a visual learner. I need to see what is happening in order to understand what is happening. Asking why may drive the people around me crazy at times, but I firmly believe it has served me well over the years. These are the thoughts that circle through my head all day long. This drug class of meds was the first drug class that did actually give me some relief. Because my Crohn's was unique and that my colon was healthy, but my disease affected my stomach and my small intestine, all medications I took when I was first diagnosed were pills made to release in the colon. They did nothing for me as my colon was healthy. However, I first tried this drug in an infusion form in the mid to late 90s, and it targeted my entire body's inflammation. Most people take it on a regular basis, 4 to 6 weeks apart. But praise the Lord, my GI doctor was very conservative with my treatment. He didn't feel comfortable with me taking it long term, given I was young, and there were no long-term studies specifically related to fertility. At the time, I didn't realize how much he was protecting me, but oh my word, I loved Dr. Aaron. I only took that infusion 3 different times, and once it knocked down the inflammation, it didn't work as well because what was remaining were the strictures, or the calluses, that could not be resolved with medication. They were more permanent blockages that had to be addressed in a different way. To this day, I still wonder about that as well. Scar tissue. We're told we can't remove scar tissue, but can we? The thoughts in my head. When the time arrived to sign my life away on the newest version of a drug in that drug class in shot form, many years after Dr. Aaron treated me with the infusion, I was in so much pain that at that point I would have done anything. I finally agreed to start taking the shots. We were spinning as my body was truly out of control and I was becoming so defeated, not knowing what my future held. I could barely think straight through the daily constant pain while still plugging through life with 3 sweet kiddos. Within a few months, I was in the hospital with pneumonia, and then again a few months later. During the second hospital stay for pneumonia, I don't know how many people said, "Well, it's a good thing you had the pneumonia shot, or it would have been so much worse." Even at that time, I thought, seriously? A 30-something mom hospitalized twice for pneumonia? How much worse could it get? What did the pneumonia shot do to help me, really? It got me to a pleurocentesis is what it did, a place I never wanted to be. A pleurocentesis is when they use a huge needle to go in between your ribs to the lung and draw fluid out of your lungs. I had already had 3 months of antibiotics, and stubborn fluid would not come off my lungs, and it caused painful, referred pain all the way down my arm. Ultimately, my pulmonologist said we needed to draw the fluid off manually. I have had more procedures that I can recount and never truly had fear with any of them, but I was scared to death of a pleurocentesis. There are many risks when sticking a huge needle into your lungs, and I wanted nothing of it, let alone while I was awake. But the pain from the months of non-healing pneumonia was brutal as well. I scheduled the appointment on a Monday for the Wednesday, 2 days away. As I was driving home from the doctor's office, it occurred to me that my crazy essential oil friend told me about lemon oil and how it was good for colds because it dried up fluid in your sinuses. I wonder if it could dry up fluid in my lungs. So, with nothing to lose, I slathered my chest in lemon oil. I put it in my water to drink, and for the next 2 days, all I did was focus on getting lemon oil into my body as often as possible. Wednesday came. I prayed. I prayed hard. I was scared. I reluctantly got in the gown and got on the table where they performed an ultrasound to mark where the fluid was located. The nurse looked at the doctor, they moved me around, and then they looked at the other lung just in case. And they looked at each other and then at me and said in disbelief, "The fluid is gone." Be it a miracle or the miracle of lemon oil, there was no more fluid on my lungs after months of trying to get that fluid to go away. I put my clothes on and I went home completely relieved, and I have never had an issue with my lungs or that referred pain again. I had a similar experience with a painful cyst and remembered reading about lemon oil that it breaks down the wall of a cyst, allowing the cyst to reabsorb into the body as well. Miracle number 2. And another, when my gums were bleeding, every time I went to the dentist, they moved me up to 3-month cleanings, they injected antibiotics under my gums, and ultimately said I had no plaque, nothing was wrong with my teeth or oral care, and they had no idea why my gums were bleeding. I was neurotic at taking care of my teeth, always. I started swishing every night with a specific essential oil blend and a couple tablespoons of water. By my next 3-month appointment, the hygienist looked at my mouth, the chart, left the room, and came back. She said, "Penny, what are you doing? I thought I had the wrong chart. Your gums look amazing." I just smiled, and I couldn't believe it. Why? Why? This cynical girl was becoming a believer in those crazy essential oils, and I did not care what anyone said about me because I was living it. But how in the world were they working? I want to find a way to impart what I have grown to understand. I know there are skeptics and cynics, and I don't blame you one bit because I was one of them. I still am one. I think it's important to ask questions and do your own research to form your own opinion. I used to laugh and say I am becoming crunchy. Now I want to be crunchier and crunchier every single day. The more I learn, the cleaner I want to be through my entire life. So I studied and researched essential oils the same way I did with that brutal candida diet. The skeptic in me wanted to either prove it wrong or know exactly why it worked. My first dive into essential oils first took me to the Bible and why Jesus was given frankincense and myrrh. I've heard that all my life, but really, what does that mean? If worthy of gifting to Jesus, they seem to be pretty valuable, I guess. And a friend introduced me also to the book Healing Oils of the Bible by David Stewart. I'll link it in the show notes below. I read it from the edge of my seat and I could not put it down. Just the Bible has between 500 to 1,000 references, and that discrepancy is based on your interpretation of specific words like gum or balm, but over 500 references at least to oils and at least 33 different species. But they were not just used in Bible times by early Christians and Israelites, but we have records from Persians, Arabians, Egyptians, Romans, and Greeks well before the scientific method was the golden rule. Humankind used every part of the plant, their seeds, their resin, their bark, their leaves, and oils, all for healing, aromatics, and for their spirituality. There are other books written between 200 BC to 600 AD referenced that give us an idea as to how people lived then on a daily basis. This teaches us how plants were used before pharmaceuticals, the pill, and hospitals. Do you know that there were no hospitals in Bible times? Have you ever thought about that? The church was the hospital, and people treated themselves at home. Bottom line, oils and every part of the plant have been used for thousands of years for healing. Using the Bible as a history book, essential oils were inhaled, they were used topically and orally by everyone during those days. Their benefits are referenced physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually throughout the Bible and other resources from the day. It's like a light bulb went on for me. I was so programmed to think that they were hokey and useless, yet what did people use before the invention of pills? How did Native Americans know how to use plants with such skill to provide healing? That's always fascinated me. Why did my mom always break off an aloe vera stem when I burned my hand as a little girl? Clearly, plants have worked for many people and for many years. And as our world becomes more industrialized, we are losing the art of using the plant that was created by the same God who created our bodies. And he created these plants for our bodies. Approximately 25 to 40% of currently available drugs are based on molecules derived from plants, meaning that a significant portion of pharmaceuticals have origins in plant compounds. Think about aspirin, that's from willow bark. Morphine and codeine are from opium poppy. Epidiolex is a more recent drug made from cannabis. There are so many more. You don't have to go far to find that, just Google it. Starting with this article from the NIH, Plant-Derived Natural Products for Drug Discovery, Current Approaches and Prospects. I'll link that in the show notes as well. So what does it mean to be essential? Essential oils are called essential because they are the necessary form for the life of the plant. They contain the essence of the plant. So while we view them from a perspective of how they can help us, the oils are vital to the life and processes of the plant. God created plants with as much intricacy as he created humans and animals. Plants have parts for protection. Think of a cactus. For preservation, think of succulents. To prevent bugs from eating them, think herbs. Every plant is created intelligently with carbon, meaning it's organic. It's truly remarkable the details plants behold, much like the protective behaviors and qualities of animals in the wild. Plants are smart because God created them. He left Adam and Eve in a garden, and he didn't plant a CVS on the corner by the fig tree. Their life was perfect in a garden full of aromatic flowers, and the Bible tells us he gave them everything that they needed. Can you just imagine how beautiful and how lovely that garden was? So to the science. Essential oils are tiny molecules. They're measured in atomic mass units. So essential oils are 500 AMU, atomic mass units, that can penetrate into every single cell in our body, including passing the blood-brain barrier, which that in itself is huge. Research tells us if we can pass the blood-brain barrier, which is basically we call it a lipid membrane of cells, but that's fatty. It's a fatty membrane of cells. We can solve things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, seizures. Modern medicine uses, I know this from my son, but he took a pill of fish oil that also had breast milk in it to get the fish oil into the brain for ADD, because we know that breast milk passes that barrier. And while fish oil is too large to pass it alone, there are some oils that can carry things across the barrier. The omega-3s are good for the brain and are pulled across with the breast milk. A better term might be a filter. Drugs from chemo are often found to not act on the brain cancer because they can't pass the blood-brain barrier. Only molecules that are less than 800 to 1,000 AMU, atomic mass units, can get through, and studies show they must be fat-soluble molecules. Water-soluble molecules don't penetrate into the brain, even when very small. The molecules of essential oils are not only small, but they are also fat-soluble. Because of the tiny molecular structure of the essential oil molecule, they are extremely concentrated. 1 drop of an essential oil contains approximately 40 million trillion molecules. That is a 4 with 19 zeros, and I am not a numbers girl. We have 100 trillion cells in our bodies. 1 drop of essential oils contains enough molecules to cover every single cell in our bodies with 400,000 molecules. It only takes 1 molecule of the right kind to open a receptor site and communicate with the DNA to alter our cellular function. So you can see why a small amount of oil can have profound effects on the body, the brain, and on our emotions. In fact, sometimes too many molecules overload the receptor sites and prevent them from responding at all. Essential oils of every kind cross the blood-brain barrier, which makes them capable of addressing disease. Please note that there are 2 kinds of oils in plants. There are fatty oils and there are essential oils. Fatty oils, it's essential to note that the fatty oils that we cook with, like olive oil or canola oil, they have molecules that are much too large to get into our human cells. They're over 1,000 AMU. That's twice the size of an essential oil. Fatty oils are created in the seed where they remain uncirculated in the plant. The heavy seed oils of a plant are for the preservation of the plant, not for the current life of the plant. The seed oil is what is used as food for the seed when it is buried in the ground before it sees the light and before photosynthesis begins to occur. Seed oils are not considered therapeutic. Isn't that fascinating? So this is a quote from Healing Oils of the Bible on page 22. To manufacture the sugars and starches that serve as food to the plant, it takes sunlight beaming on green stems and leaves containing chlorophyll, along with a root system to draw minerals and moisture from the earth. When a seed first germinates in the ground, it has no stem, leaves, or roots. So how is the budding new plant supposed to live until its food factory is ready for production? The fatty oil provides just enough food for the new plant to live until it can make its own food. That is why the oil is in the seed, and that is why it does not circulate throughout the plant. Essential oils circulate within a plant to carry out its functions in order to survive. They are used for multiple purposes, but I've just picked out 6. Number 1, they're used for defense, to protect themselves from pests and predators, like trees produce sap and resin to deter wood-boring beetles. They attract pollinators. Some plants use essential oils to attract insects that help with pollination, like rosemary can attract pollinators to the plant. They help with healing. Essential oils actually help plants heal themselves when they need to be healed, and for other plants to heal themselves. Number 4, they adapt to inorganic stressors on plants like light, temperature, drought, CO2 levels, and ozone levels. Number 5, they increase thermal tolerance. Be it hot or cold, essential oils help regulate a plant with temperature. And the final one that I picked out was for protection. It makes them better equipped to protect themselves against funguses or other microbes that might be harmful to them in the environment. Plants were created for their own essential life-giving properties, but they also aid in human life-giving properties. Plants use their odors to attract animals and insects to pollinate them, and noted that some plants' fragrances disappear within 30 minutes of pollination. They have gum to trap bugs or chemicals to protect them from UV light. Some blossoms close at night to protect them from predators. Plants are smart. Current day medicines are manufactured by man. They lack carbon, which means they are inorganic. They don't have the life force that a plant has, and therefore they don't have the intelligence of plants like photosynthesis. Plants are so smart that they make their own food. If you can't smell an oil from a distance, it probably isn't essential. We can't smell liquids or solids. We can only smell gases. So only molecules that can vaporize and jump into the air and enter the nose can be detected and smelled. And the oils that vaporize do so because they are incredibly small. Think about oils for cooking, such as peanut or almond oil. They may have a slight smell, but can you smell them from across the room in the same way that you can smell cinnamon or peppermint? Or think about pine trees at Christmas, just all the smells that we smell, those are all essential oils. The cooking oils are not essential. When you breathe an oil molecule, it goes to the back of your nose and hits the amygdala in the brain. This is your headquarters of the limbic system, which manages your storage system for all of your emotional experiences. I've shared a little bit about that when I discussed EMDR. The amygdala does not understand words or language. Its language is smell. So essential oils provide a powerful means to contact a non-verbal part of your brain. When I smell fresh cut okra, I think of my granny's garden. I love the smell of a fresh tomato off the vine. Or you can walk into any high school gym and smell high school. Isn't that the truth? Those smells are stored in our brain as memories and emotions, good or bad. The smell of pine in the morning, or a good rain, or chocolate chip cookies. And as I mentioned in my EMDR episode, I have a negative relationship with the smell of hospital plastics like IV tubing or masks for oxygen. We hear all the time that stress can make us sick. That's emotion. Those are stored emotions that can make us sick. And our amygdala not only stores our emotions, but it files them too. And it can be filed anywhere in our body. And that is the nonverbal part of our brain. Every medication that is man-made has a side effect. We know the lists when we hear them on the drug commercials. And working in a hospital, I see it every single day. Patients taking one medication, and then they have another to help with the side effect, and then another to help the side effect of that one. And all of a sudden, they have a handful of medications. They have no idea what they are for and are most often used to offset uncomfortable side effects of the very first one. Medicine can be dangerous when mixed or taken improperly. We need skilled chemists with a large knowledge to supervise the use of our medications so we don't kill ourselves. And this we have learned with opiate use. Medicines are not made to heal. Most medications are made to be used for life, and you get caught in a vicious cycle. Just like me, I was on thyroid medicine, and I was told to never go off because my thyroid is now dead. I'll address that in another issue or another podcast. But medicines are created for profit, to keep you coming back, not to heal you. And that's a hard truth that we have to accept. Contrast that to essential oils. They don't have serious side effects. When essential oils are used, they work together in harmony versus working against each other. We call that the entourage effect. They don't cause harmful drug interactions like synthetic, man-made drugs. We don't have to have the supervision of a doctor to use them. Like I said before, I have always admired Native American culture. It's the Oklahoman in me, and how they knew their plants, and they used them very skillfully for healing. When using essential oils, you don't get addicted or stuck using oils for life because they embody a healing power. They know how to heal what needs to be healed. For example, antibiotics that are great. They go into the body, they wipe out the good and the bad bacteria, however, with no awareness what is good or bad. However, essential oils are smart. And because they're smart, they know what needs to be healed, and they know what cells are good, and they can remain untouched. That's coming soon. Essential oils were everything in this world for so much longer than pharmaceuticals have been used in this world. Think about that. They have been used for longer in this world than drugs have been used today. I'm not so sure where to insert this disclaimer, and I always feel like I need to repeat it, so I'm going to insert here. Antibiotics saved my life. I am eternally grateful for Alexander Fleming, who invented penicillin, the very first antibiotic. I personally was on 10 IV antibiotics at one time to fight the sepsis in my body, and without them, I would have died. So I am not here to dog Western medicine. I believe in it, and it saved me, and I wanted to be saved. On the flip side, I also believe that the overuse of long-term low-dose antibiotics contribute to much of my health issues starting when I was just a junior in high school. So there's that. We have to have enough education in order to advocate for ourselves and how we want our body to be treated and what medicines we agree to take. Take it from me. Don't just do or take everything blindly. Always ask for a second or even a third opinion. Especially if you don't enjoy medicine or enjoy understanding it, you need to get multiple opinions. Oils were used for worship and still used today in Catholic churches for sure, to be spiritually uplifting. I know when my grandmother was buried, her priest waved frankincense over her burial. 70% of the books in the Bible mention essential oils, their uses, and plants from where they came from. As a history book, we know that essential oils were used in abundance. Ezekiel 47:12 says, "Their fruit will be for food, and their leaves will be for healing," when speaking of plants. One of my favorite verses. So plants are not only to be used for nutrition, but they are also to be used for healing. The Bible references plant oils such as olive, almond, and flaxseed being used for fuels, the aromatic essential oils for flavor and perfumes and incense, and even for embalming. They were also referred to for emotional release, mental clearing, spiritual upliftment, physical healing, and the prevention of disease. The word anoint, which shows up a lot in the Bible, means to massage or rub with oil. Healing oils referenced in the Bible included things like aloe, cassia, cypress, galbanum, frankincense, cedar wood, spikenard, myrrh, so many more. The birth of the scientific method started between 500 to 600 years ago, and people began to look for answers to life questions outside of the church for the first time. If you don't remember your science and the scientific method, it has 7 steps. The scientific method is referred to question, research, hypothesis, experiment, data analysis, conclusion, and communication. That's how we go about scientific problems. Although scientists may modify, reorder, or revisit steps on occasion, scientists generally use this basic logical approach in all that they do. For hundreds of years, people went to church to get anointed and healed. And anointed meant rubbed, right? They didn't have hospitals. Healing came from the church. So when the scientific method came about, the culture became more secular, and we began to ease away from the church for our dependence on health and healing, putting less faith in God-made solutions and more dependence in man-made solutions. Plants have an incredibly intricate design to protect them in the wild. But that same design and many benefits used to protect itself can also be used to benefit the human body. And why is that? Because they are intelligently and incredibly supernaturally made by God for our purposes of nutrition and healing. It's fascinating how everything on this earth is orchestrated for what seems to be a simple purpose, yet at the same time, a much greater purpose. The fact that I have never thought about the tiny detail of a plant and why each are so different blows my mind. They each serve a God-given purpose. So, okay, we're going to breathe for a second. We're about to get into a couple big words, but it's not going to last very long. So get a pencil if you like, or if you listen this at, 2 times speed, slow it down for a second. But the end result of this thought is a huge light bulb moment. We're going to have a tiny bit of chemistry in here, and I promise it's very basic because chemistry is not my forte. But what are essential oils actually made of? Going down to the very, very tiny part. We know that they're small, and we know that they can pass the blood-brain barrier. But what are they, and what makes them different? Essential oils are composed of carbon, hydrogen, and sometimes oxygen. Remember what carbon means? Carbon means that it's organic, means that it is found in something living. If something is not living, it does not have carbon, and therefore it's called inorganic. That's your science lesson for the day. All essential oils are composed of what we call terpenes, and terpenes are what make essential oils unique in the world of natural substances. Terpenes give plants their color and their smell. They make them unique. So terpenes, to take it down one more notch, and that's as low as we're going to go, are composed of phenols with a pH, monoterpenes, and sesquiterpenes. Got that down? We're almost done. So phenols and phenylpropanoids, they create conditions where unfriendly viruses and bacteria cannot live. They cannot survive. Their most important function is that they clean the receptor sites on the cells. Without clean receptor sites, cells cannot communicate. The body malfunctions and sickness results. I can't help but think of cleaning my dryer vents every time I dryer. If I don't clean all the lint out of the vent, it cannot dry properly after a time, for us like 2 times. The dryer can't get airflow and it won't dry the clothes well, and then I have a pile of damp laundry. So think of that as the phenols. Monoterpenes. There's approximately 2,000 varieties of monoterpenes. The most important ability of monoterpenes is that they can reprogram miswritten information in the cellular memory DNA. With improper coding in a cellular memory, cells can malfunction and disease results. Just like a computer, if we get the wrong coding, I go to my little first aid and repair button, I click on that button, and I watch it repair whatever it needs to repair as a million numbers and letters go across my screen. So monoterpenes can reprogram miswritten information. And finally, sesquiterpenes. There's more than 10,000 kinds of sesquiterpenes. They deliver oxygen molecules to cells in the same way hemoglobin does to blood. They can also erase or deprogram miswritten codes in cellular memory. This is amazing because sesquiterpenes are thought to be especially effective in fighting cancer because they can erase those bad cells. They can deprogram misinformation in the cells, and the oxygen that they deliver creates an environment where cancer cells cannot reproduce. So they give cancer a double whammy. Can I get an amen? The American Medical Association says that if they could just find an agent that would pass the blood-brain barrier, they would be able to find cures for ailments such as multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. These agents have been around since biblical times. Essential oils, but particularly those containing sesquiterpenes that oxygenate the brain. So in summary, we're almost to the end. You've been hanging in well. The triple threat they call PMS, phenols, monoterpenes, and sesquiterpenes, is believed to be the major aspect responsible for the therapeutic power of the essential oils. That is what makes them so incredibly beneficial. Let's repeat the process for clarification, completely in brief. Number 1, essential oils know how to cleanse the receptor sites with the phenols and phenylpropanoids. This allows the proper transfer of hormones, transmitters, steroids, and all the cellular messages necessary for a healthy cell. Number 2, they deprogram bad information. So in comes sesquiterpenes to the rescue. They work within the cell to move oxygen across, transport the materials inside the cell, which allows for DNA and RNA to deprogram or completely erase incorrect information from cellular memory. And then, number 3, they reprogram correct information, monoterpenes. They work inside the cell and between the cells to protect against free radical damage and work within the cells to produce properly programmed strands of DNA and RNA. They reprogram the cells to maintain healthy bodily functions. These 3 chemical components may be why essential oils work so quickly and often permanently by restoring the body back to its natural state of balance and health from the most basic and fundamental levels within the cells. I can't wait to get to the point where we get to talk specifically about specific essential oils and how they work on our body. But did you hear that? Why did the lemon oil help my lungs eliminate the fluid? Why did the lemon oil break down the wall of that cyst? Why did essential oils stop my gums from bleeding? Why do essential oils truly work in our fearfully and wonderfully made bodies? They do it by restoring the body back to its natural state of balance and health from the most basic and fundamental levels from within the cells. When our cells go awry, essential oils now know how to go in and fix things inside the teeny weeny little cells. And they have been doing this for thousands of years since God created the plants on the third day. For whatever reason, as a culture, we stopped depending upon and appreciating the power of plants as medicine, or better yet, plants as a life source for our bodies in the 1940s. That has to make you laugh out loud. For thousands of years, plants and essential oils healed our bodies. We knew they healed our bodies, and they were used successfully. And in a single generation of only 85 years, we have discredited their value, their power over our bodies to heal and provide good health. We've ridiculed people who knew far more than I thought I did, that just wanted to use natural remedies, and instead believed more heavily in synthetic, man-made options of healing. And I use the word healing loosely when you're stuck on meds for life. 85 years of drugs versus thousands of years of plants. Which one will you choose? I encourage you to do your own research, look up the details, and let me tell you, AI searches are the bomb. I'm just a mom who understands how the body works and pray that of all the things that I want to teach my children, that they learn that it is okay to be different, to think critically, to think outside of the norm or any tribal belief. Cultural norms are simply that. They're cultural. They are not absolute truth. As always ask questions and always ask why. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and if you have a moment, please take a moment to give the episode a good review. My biggest passion is to help moms working through chronic illness or moms who want to avoid chronic illness, skip a few steps along the way that I had to learn the hard way, and even be able to translate it to your family. Your sharing my story helps me help one more person. Thank you so much. And I'm going to close with my very favorite verse, 2 Corinthians 12:9-10. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." I hope you have a great day. One of the most significant additions to my daily routine was a clean, safe, USDA organic, high-quality CBD oil. Please know, not all CBD is the same. This family-owned company in North Carolina changed my life, allowing me to get off opiates and live life without pain from surgeries, creaky joints after workouts, or gardening. It's a mind-blowing natural step to decrease discomfort, improve mood, help with sleep, prevent or slow future age-related annoyances, and many other benefits. You can check out my website at pennysampler.com, which includes $10 off your first order. To be clear, having Crohn's, I've never smoked, I don't drink alcohol, or ever been high. This is a reputable option that I'm incredibly passionate about sharing. If you would like personal assistance with selecting the products, please fill out the simple health assessment quiz in the show notes, and I will be in touch with you as soon as possible. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you take 30 seconds to leave a review and share it with a friend? It helps me help someone else, and reviews are the best way to do that. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll meet you back here for another episode next week.